Okay, so this is part two of building a live set. I've made a little bit of progress in the last couple of weeks since I recorded the last episode. So if you haven't seen part one, then you can check it out on Brooks Audio YouTube channel, where you're probably watching this. So one of the big goals that I set myself was to find a way of changing the curve input for my filter. So I managed to get the filter frequency and the resonance to do something fairly useful on my beats, just using automation, the MIDI control editor in Ableton. So just as a reminder, there's my high pass. And you can see how the resonance changes as well as the filter frequency with one control, because I wanted this to be a one-handed thing, and then all band pass and low pass as well do similar things, but it doesn't behave exactly as I want it to. So I had a little dig around and I found exactly what I need, which is this automation curve device. I'm going to put a link to it in the description field. And this is what I love about Max for Live, is that if you can think of something that you need that's not in the standard toolkit, then there's a good chance that someone's already built it because they already had the same requirement as you. Or if you're proficient in Max MSP, which is something that I intend to do and become, then you can build these things for yourself. But this one is really, really great. So thank you to Zacian Music for this, because it's exactly what I wanted, like absolutely bang on. So what can I do with it? Well, if we have a look at the MIDI control that I set up in the last one, what I'm going to actually do is remove from here, I'm going to remove the resonance control. So this one, I think, is the low pass. It's been a couple of weeks since I did it, so I'm just going to delete that. In fact, let's just get rid of the resonance from all of them. Okay. So device, that's interesting. Well, we'll look at that select device, what that means in a minute, actually. So I'm just doing frequency now. Resonance is unaffected, so I'm just going to turn, for all of these, I'm just going to turn that off for the time being, or to 0%. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to map this same control to this knob on the automation curve device, and so that now picks up, and you can see the inner circle there is following my finger, same as the filter frequency. And what it's doing with the outer circle is following this curve. So for the first half of the throw of the fader, I get an output going to full and then back down to 0 again, and then it remains at 0 for the rest of the throw of the fader. If I was to map this now to the resonance control on here, and now we can see the resonance do something interesting at the start, but then we could basically go back down to 0 for the rest. So it's following this output curve. So this is absolutely genius. This is exactly what I needed, as I say. So my curve looks more like this, actually, and it will take a little bit of tweaking, where for the short amount of throw of the fader, it has very little resonance. Let's try it up one more click. Yeah. I might just reduce this so that just stays flat. Right, so it gets to that point, past the frequency where I wanted, where I wanted to, like 100 hertz, where I don't, so I'm at about, well, am I there, 180. This is where I can afford to have a bit more resonance, because I'm past the big punch frequencies of the kick and the snare. So I'm not going to start overloading the output of the channel. I'm not going to start overloading the bus or the PA system. At this point, I can afford to start to have a bit more resonance. So here I'm going to boost my resonance up. And now, where I'm in the interesting part of where the filter's working, I can keep that resonance sustained at sort of more of a kind of an exciting level. and if I want to, I can drop it off as it gets higher so that we don't get too much harshness. So maybe, yeah, start dropping it off a little bit earlier. I don't know. I mean, basically the point is you can do what you need to do with this curve. Yeah, so now my filter sweep sounds, for my low pass, sounds more like this. So great. So that's exactly what I wanted to achieve. So what I'll probably do will be to duplicate this. So just copy and paste that so that I've got another copy, and that will do my, I think that thinking about it, just remembered the bandpass was a fixed resonance anyway. So I'm going to just leave that up at 34%. And then obviously I have a slightly different curve for my high pass. So this is still mapped. Excuse me, let me just check. This one needs to be mapped. So these are both mapped to the same fader again. But in this case, I need to clear this and map this to the resonance of the high pass filter. And this way, this actually does a, okay, let's just map that to this one. Okay, so my low pass does that as I programmed, and actually the same curve more or less works for the high pass as well. It's really, as I said, it's really avoiding putting too much extra resonance into this frequency band that I'm trying to avoid. So that works quite well. So my high pass now sounds like this. Now, what we'll notice is that I can minimize these. I don't need to see those curves anymore, just double click on them. But what I really want is for these filters, when I enable them, for them to pop up onto the screen. And you can actually achieve that in Ableton by selecting the title of the plugin, or the audio effect or whatever it is, and you can assign that to the same button. So when I push the filter on button for the low pass, or I assign it to or I select the band pass. So sorry, that's the low pass, that's the band pass, and that's the high pass. So now those get selected as well, which means that if I'm on a different channel, when I push these, it'll always come to that point. It will always jump back to this channel and show me this plugin. Even if there's a longer chain as well, it'll jump to that point so I can see the plugin on my computer, which is brilliant. Yeah, so that's really handy. So even if I'm on a bus, for example, and I'm looking at the master bus, I hit the low pass, it appears on the screen. So that's really great. Okay, hours of fun. So one of the other things that I wanted to clarify from the last session is how to make the control latching. So as you can see, when I push these buttons, these filters turn on in a momentary fashion. I want them to toggle, I want them to latch. So if I go to the Korg editor and I select that particular button, so this is for the low pass filter, I can actually change the button behavior to toggle if I want to. And then I can write that scene data to the controller. And now when I go back to Ableton again, that one will latch. So, and you can see the button, the LED button, I think you can see that turns on as well. So you can see on the controller which one's alive. Now, yeah, I mean, because that LED's on there, I think maybe that's a good idea. I can do that. I can punch it in and punch it out again. which is quite nice. So anyway, I've answered the question. I'm not sure which behaviour I'm going to prefer once I start performing with this, but at least I've answered the question as to how it can be done. The last thing I wanted to talk about in this video is another way that I want to control some filters in this live set. And I have this device here which is called a Genki Wave, and it's a ring that goes on your finger, as you can see, hopefully. This comes with some control software called Softwave, and basically what this does is, you can see as I tilt my hand up and down, I can change a parameter. Now this is the most basic way of setting this up. It does pan, it does tilt, and it does yaw as well, I think, which is side to side. You can also use the buttons on there's a few buttons on the ring itself. So at the moment I've got tilt like this, and I've got a moment toggle, as they call it, which is basically when I push the button, it sends out a key, a C-1, which is just what I picked. So what I can do in a very basic way is just put a filter on here, on the master. There will be a limiter and some mastering live sort of, yeah, something which will mimic the mastering process of a record, in order to make the live set sound like a DJ set, or sound like it's produced and finished studio music. So I'm aware that that's a big thing in the live performance, live set world, where people work really, really hard on getting their master bus working properly. Because obviously, generally every track that you release, the mastering engineer will do a completely different job on each track. So getting the consistency in the stems in order to make the master work well is going to be an interesting process. So that's something I'll deal with in one of the other videos in the future. For now, I'm just going to assign. And what you can do here is you can helpfully mute this control data so that it's not going to send that into Ableton. So if I set up my MIDI mapping, I can assign my button to the device on, and I can then re-enable the tilt control, and I can assign this to frequency. So you can see straight away it picked up on the control. And now I have the ability to do my filter. Oh, okay, so it has also, so my filter should work there. It has actually picked up on the wrong thing there. So yeah, right, there we go. So the button enables. So it's actually a double click. I'm sure you can change that. I'm quite new to this device, and going back here again and unmuting that means that I can change so double click to turn it off, double click to turn it on. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because you can't accidentally do it then. So double click. It's quite easy to, you can also change the mode. So it's going to take some getting used to. You can also cycle through the different presets using the up down buttons, which is pretty cool, because so you can have your ring assigned to different parameters, and you can change it using the ring, what it's controlling. And as you change the preset, it tells you the number of the preset on here, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So but that will allow me do the whole track. In theory. Stop playing. Yeah. So again, it will take a little bit of getting used to. So that's basically mapped on the master bus. Now I'm not sure if that's how I'm going to end up using it, but of course, what I can also do is I can use one of my automation curve Max MSP devices and input that in here. Oops, only once. Only need one. I can also map that to the same thing. So this could be mapped to resonance here. This control can come from the tilt on here. So I can do the same thing as I did before. So yeah. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So I think that more or less covers what I wanted to cover today. I'm trying to keep these fairly short, these different sessions, and in a couple of weeks' time I'll probably drop another one of these once I've made a few more bits of progression in the live set. So yeah, keep it locked as always. Brooks Audio, peace out. Way!